With a little time, chases. Jack Youngblood on a bad ankle brings him down. And there's a flag on the...
Before we get started with our video, go ahead and hit the red subscribe button so you can catch up on more awesome content like this in the future. Hey there fam, what's up and welcome back to our channel. American football is a hardcore game. Being a full contact game means that physical injuries are quite common for the players. However, in the spirit of the game, some players, despite getting injured on the field and being in a lot of pain, decide to continue with the match and end up performing for a lifetime. Here's a look at some of the best performances delivered by injured football players. Number 10, Donovan McNabb. Donovan McNabb was one of the most coveted NFL players of his time. He played with the Philadelphia Eagles for 11 seasons, and in that period, he became their all-time leader in pass attempts, pass completions, passing yards, and passing touchdowns. He proved his dedication to the game early on in his career in a game against the Arizona Cardinals, where he was sacked by two players of the opposing team and hurt his right leg. Instead of sitting it out, McNabb did a daring thing and got his ankle taped up so he could return in the second drive. He delivered a striking performance, being 20 of 25, passing with 255 yards and 4 touchdowns. It was later revealed that he had broken his fibula in 3 different places. Number 9, Jack Youngblood. Jack Youngblood is one of the best American football players from Florida. He played at the defensive end for the Los Angeles Rams in the 1970s and 80s and then retired to work for the team. He's also dedicated his life to working for organizations aiming to help victims of traumatic brain injury, which is something a lot of NFL players fall victim to. In 1979, Jack played the entirety of the NFL playoffs and the Super Bowl 14 with a broken fibula. Even more surprising is that in a divisional round against the Cowboys, Jack sprinted on his broken ankle to sack Roger Staubach, the opposing quarterback. Number 8, Tyrel Owens. More popularly known as T.O., Tyrell Owens played in the NFL for 16 seasons and was considered one of the best players in his era. His dedication to the game is best exemplified by the time he defied doctors' recommendations and played in Super Bowl 39. This was a particularly risky move on his part because it could have led to permanent injuries had the situation gone out of hand. Even though his team, the Philadelphia Eagles, lost that particular game to the New England Patriots, Owens gave a phenomenal performance with 9 receptions for 122 yards. He later talked about how difficult it was for him to accelerate his recovery just to be able to play that Super Bowl game. Number 7, Tyrell Davis. Sometimes these players' commitment to the game is tested on the spot and they have to prove how devoted they are to winning the game. Tyrell Davis needs no introduction. His election to the Pro Football Hall of Fame does that for him. In one Super Bowl game against the Green Bay Packers, Davis forgot to take his migraine medication, and halfway through the game, he realized that his migraine got so bad that he was unable to see. While he was administered a dose of his medication during the game, it would take some while for it to start working. Regardless, the coach told him to continue playing, and Davis didn't defy the orders. In the first half alone, he managed to record 67 yards on 10 carries. Number 6, Walter Payton. Walter Payton played for the Chicago Bears for 13 seasons and holds records in several distinguished categories. He's regarded as one of the best running backs of all time. His ability as a great player was established when he played against the Minnesota Vikings on November 20th, 1977 with 101-degree fever and flu symptoms. Despite being incapacitated to the point of shivering on the floor the previous day, Payton managed to set a record by rushing 275 yards. Number 5, Emmett Smith. Emmett Smith played with the NFL for 15 glorious seasons and is the league's all-time leading rusher. Despite missing most of the 1993 season's training camp, Smith was having an exceptional streak. In the season finale against the New York Giants, the Cowboys were struggling to win, but unfortunately, after a sack, it seemed as though Smith had dislocated his right shoulder. But this didn't stop him from returning to the game in the second half. He got a total of 229 yards and was the prime reason the Cowboys managed to get a 16-13 overtime win. Number 4, Eli Manning. Eli Manning played for the New York Giants for 16 seasons and has retired only recently in 2019. He's led his team to 2 Super Bowl victories even when it was considered to be an underdog. In 2012, before a game against the San Francisco 49ers for the conference crown, Eli Manning caught a flu bug and was unable to take part in any of the practice sessions. He was so sick that he was hooked up to an IV for almost 2 days. Despite that, he managed to take part in the game with whatever strength he had and threw 32 completions with 316 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. This got the Giants a much-needed victory, and we weren't sure where they would be if Eli hadn't come through. Number 3, Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Julius Taylor was a linebacker for the New York Giants for 13 years and has rightfully earned the title of being one of the best defensive players in the history of the game. He was also widely known to be a very tough player who repeatedly played while injured. Perhaps the toughest he had to be in an NFL game was in 1988 in a playoff against the Saints. He had a torn pectoral muscle, which was very painful for him to be playing with. He had to have a harness put on to keep his shoulder in place, but he continued and managed to record 7 tackles, 3 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. The Giants evidently won the game. Number 2, Tony Romo. Tony Romo played 14 seasons with the Dallas Cowboys. He holds several Cowboys team records and has the 4th highest passer rating at 97.1. Perhaps his most distinguishing performance was in Week 2 of the 2011 season when he was hit by Carlos Rogers of the San Francisco 49ers and suffered a broken rib and a punctured lung. He missed only part of the game, but then came back at the end of the 3rd quarter. He scored a tying touchdown in the last 4 seconds of the 4th quarter, which allowed them to force overtime. In overtime, he connected with Jesse Holley for 77 yards to set up the 19-yard game-winning field goal. At the end of the game, he had 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 116.4 rating. This performance earned him the NFC's Offensive Player of the Week award. Number 1, Ronnie Lott. Lott wins the title of giving up the most for a game. In a 1985 game, his left pinky got crushed in a tackle. That seemed painful even when we spectated it. Had he gotten surgery, he would not be able to get back for the next season, so he had the tip of his finger amputated so he could come back to play the season. That route wraps up this video, which we hope you guys found delightful. Do shout out your favorite moments in the comments down below, while also smashing that like button and also giving us a subscribe so you can catch up on more videos like this one in the future. Also, do us a favor and watch those 2 other videos on your screen right now, as they're really well worth your time. And with that, I'll be catching you guys later in another video.